Donald Trump has never been politically weaker, and House Republicans just made that reality even worse. His entire presidency has been built around centralizing power to serve two purposes: punishing political opponents and enriching himself. More than anything else, Trump has relied on tariffs as a weapon to do both. But now, 3 House Republicans have dealt a major blow to an already weakened Trump, humiliating him and sending him into a meltdown. And this isn't the only moment tonight where both Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson look completely exposed and powerless. Before we even get to the House Republicans rebelling, there's something else that's clearly enraging Trump, because it strips him of his ability to threaten, bully, and abuse power. Once again, Democrats just beat him in court. That's where we need to start, because it sets the tone for everything that follows. And honestly, it's going to put a smile on your face. Trump humiliated after push to punish his enemies fail. The Trump administration's attempt to punish 6 Democratic lawmakers for urging members of the military and intelligence community to disobey unlawful orders has failed. 3 sources familiar with the matter told NBC News that the Department of Justice was unsuccessful in its bid to secure indictments in connection with the video, which featured 6 Democrats. The New York Times, which cited 4 sources, noted that prosecutors sought to convince the grand jury that the lawmakers had violated a statute that forbids interfering with the loyalty, morale, or discipline of the U.S. Armed Forces. The grand jury subsequently rejected the bid. The lawmakers featured in the video include Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, Chris Duzio, Chrissy Helena, Jason Crow, and Maggie Goodlander. It is unclear how many of the lawmakers were targeted in the indictment, which was sought by U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. In his attempt to go after lawmakers, and let's not forget, for doing nothing more than telling members of the military not to follow illegal orders, Donald Trump has failed. And he hasn't just failed, he's failed spectacularly. These are the same lawmakers Trump once threatened with military trials and even hinted should be hanged. And yet, here we are. Pete Hegseth stripping Mark Kelly of his titles is supposed to be some kind of power move, but it's actually laughable. Mark Kelly is an astronaut and an American hero. Pete Hegseth having authority over him is beyond absurd. No one takes it seriously. This is just the latest in a long string of moments where Trump's threats have fallen completely flat. No one is afraid anymore. Republicans in Indiana proved it. House Republicans are proving it again tonight. Trump simply does not hold the power he thinks he does, and the one tool Trump still tries to use to project strength, especially abroad, is tariffs. He went on at length about them in an interview today, and that interview perfectly set the stage for the House Republican revolt that now has him spiraling as the clock hits midnight.
With a very nice country, Switzerland, they were paying no tariffs, sending stuff over here like nobody could believe. And we had a $42 billion deficit, and we weren't taking anything. I said, well, we have to do something because we have to even that up a little bit. I didn't have to get everything at one time. So I put on a 30% tariff, which is very low. Still, we were having a big deficit, but it was half the deficit. Then I got an emergency call from, I believe, the Prime Minister of Switzerland, and she was very aggressive, but nice, but very aggressive. Sir, we are a small country. We can't do this. We can't do this. I couldn't get her off the phone. We are a small country. I said, you may be a small country, but we have a $42 billion deficit with you. No, we are a small country. Again and again and again. I couldn't get her off the phone. So it was at 30%. And I didn't really like the way she talked to us. And so instead of giving her a reduction, I raised it to 39%. And then I got inundated by people from Switzerland, and I figured, you know what, we'll do something that's a little bit more palatable, at least now. But I realized that all these, Switzerland you think of as ultra chic.
Let's be clear, before the Supreme Court, Trump's team has argued that his tariffs are part of some grand national security strategy. Thoughtful, strategic, necessary. But Trump himself keeps admitting that's not true. There's no master plan. He uses tariffs like a mob boss uses threats, for leverage, for control, without caring about the consequences. He doesn't care about the economic damage, even as the data keeps getting worse. We're constantly comparing this moment to 2008 and 2009. And even someone who was 6 years old back then knows those weren't exactly booming times for America. That's how bad things are starting to look, and that's exactly why, in a rare break from Trump, some Republicans in the House have stepped up, setting Democrats up with a path to potentially end Trump's tariffs altogether. GOP revolt's effort to block votes on Trump's tariffs. House Speaker Mike Johnson's bid to block future votes on Donald Trump's tariffs failed Tuesday after an internal GOP revolt. 3 lawmakers, Thomas Massie, Kevin Kiley, and Don Bacon, all Republicans, joined Democrats to defeat a key procedural measure 217 to 214. That gives Democrats the opportunity to force a vote as soon as this week on a resolution disapproving of the president's 25% duties on Canadian goods. House Republican leadership spent most of Tuesday whipping votes after a small group of tariff-skeptic Republicans led by Massie and Kiley pushed back against the procedural maneuver, which would keep the House from voting on resolutions disapproving of Trump's tariffs through July. A previous GOP measure blocking tariff votes expired on January 31st. Tuesday's defeat appears to end a nearly year-long effort by Republican leadership to shield its members from politically difficult votes on tariffs as voters, and business tire from the uncertainty fomented by Trump's favorite geopolitical tool. That last point about Trump and Mike Johnson's political weakness might be the most important. For over a year, Johnson blocked votes to stop Trump's tariffs on Canada, Mexico, Argentina, Europe, basically across the globe. He refused to allow a simple up or down vote, even as those tariffs cost the average American thousands a year, wiped out jobs, and shifted key trade relationships away from the U.S. Trump reshaped markets on a whim, but now Republicans see how unpopular that decision is. This isn't abstract anymore. Americans understand tariffs raise prices on them, not on China. That argument is settled. The real problem for Trump isn't just that the tariffs may now be blocked. It's that Republicans will be forced to vote on them. If you're in a swing district and you vote to keep the tariffs, that's a campaign ad waiting to happen. You know what made your life more expensive? These tariffs. But if you vote against Trump, you risk his backlash. Either way, it exposes his weakness. More Republicans breaking ranks. More proof he's losing control. Mike Johnson can barely hold a majority on paper, let alone in practice. And that's the reality of Trump's economy right now. And Bernie Sanders summed it up perfectly.
Well, look, Chris, I think the American people understand with what's going on in Minneapolis, Trump's attacks on the media, the university. He's going after political opponents through criminal actions. That we are moving into an authoritarian society. And I'm very glad that the courts ruled what they did. Obviously, members of the Senate, the American people have a right to say what they want to say without being prosecuted by the Trump administration. In terms of, I got to tell you though, I seen that tape you just rolled. You wonder whether Trump is completely crazy and delusional or just a pathological liar. But the idea that anybody would believe that this is a great economy when 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck, when the cost of the health care is going up, people can't afford housing, people can't afford their basic groceries, childcare system is dysfunctional, people can't afford to go to college. And if this is the greatest economy in the history of the world, God help us.
Well, I want to show you these two charts because I think it is quite good for some of the people that he hangs out with. This is corporate profits on the left. You see that line going up? That's a percentage of the gross domestic income. It's at an all-time high. And on the right, you see labor compensation, basically wages, which is at an all-time low. There's a sliding scale between those two, and it just seems like one of the things we've seen it as a longer-term trend, but it has really rocketed up, is that the money really is flowing to the top pretty well. Like the stock market, corporate profits, all that stuff is doing really bang up right now, and people hate this economy because it's not getting to them.
Well, Chris, as I understand it, the billionaire class has seen, since Trump's second term began, an increase in their wealth by over $1 trillion. Elon Musk himself is moving closer and closer to being a trillionaire. So the guys the billionaires who sat behind Trump at his inauguration, yeah, the economy is the best ever for them. But for the average working person, not quite the case.
And I know that one thing that I've been hearing a lot from Trump's people, they've been, very bullish on AI. A big reason I think that we saw all those tech oligarchs there in the White House, and we saw Sam Altman there, I think on day 2 of the administration, is they don't want any regulation of AI. They want to, there's a sort of simpatico relationship. And one of the things you hear from all sorts of folks is, this is going to replace a ton of jobs. It's probably going to make profits and efficiency go up and the job market get worse. And we're just all going to have to kind of take that. That's what's coming down the pike.
Well, here's what I think, Chris, and it's the reason why I'm going to introduce legislation for a moratorium on data centers. And data centers are the infrastructure for AI. I think we have not a clue. We are totally unprepared for what is coming.
This is a disaster for Donald Trump, not just because Republicans are revolting, but because they're moving to strip him of the power he uses like a mob boss, shaking down companies and countries for personal gain. That's what this has always been about, and that's how we're going to keep talking about it on this show. We're also shifting the media conversation. Thanks for watching, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I will see you soon.